Hi everybody, my name is Hope Friedman and I am the writer of the Go-To Guide for Empowering Our Youth. This is my 8th webinar and my last one, and it's on gratitude. So, first before I want to get into this, I want to apologize. I'm just going to go back really quickly. I want to apologize for any background sounds or anything you might hear around me. I'm in my house, so it's a little bit loud here. I have to fight with the AC and the papers crinkling, and, I have a dog, and, so I'm just going to try to speak over that. So I just apologize in advance. And additionally, I will be speaking as slowly as possible. I'm not going to try to read off of the script as much as I can. I'm going to try to stay. I'm trying to be more face to face because these webinars aren't live, but I'm still trying to have that kind of interaction. They might be a little bit wordy at times, so it's a little bit harder for me not to read off the script, and sometimes I have to. So, I just wanted to say it in advance. I also want to say that if you have watched my past 7 videos, then you might want to skip the information about me. I would skip to about 15 to 20 minutes into it once I get past all about me. I also want to briefly mention that this will be lengthy, and it's not an overview of the book, but it's more or less a book reading. So if you don't want to listen to all of it, I recommend skipping around or reading for yourself on Apple Books. Okay. To start off, I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself and share a bit about the process of this video. The purpose of this video. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Hope Friedman. Right now, I'm a high school student juggling school life and various activities, including something very close to my heart, my involvement in Girl Scouts. For those who might not be familiar with Girl Scouts, it's an amazing organization that's somewhat like the Boy Scouts, if you've ever heard of them. Girl Scouts focuses on empowering young girls, helping us to develop independence, leadership skills, and competence. It's more than just earning badges or going on trips. It's about learning to be strong, capable individuals who support one another. Now, in order to work towards the Gold Award, which is the highest award a Girl Scout can earn, there's a process that begins with earning the Bronze and Silver Award first. I'll go into a little bit more detail about that later, though. The most important key takeaway is that the Gold Award is a significant achievement and the main inspiration behind the project I'm sharing with you today. Beyond Girl Scouts, I want to share a little bit more about who I am and what motivates me. One of my biggest passions is helping my community in various ways. I believe in making a positive impact wherever I can, and I often try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by combining my interests. For example, I have a website called equalmedicalaccess.org, which is dedicated to advocating for equal access to healthcare. This is another cause I deeply care about, and I'd be thrilled if you take a minute to visit the site or even show some support if it resonates with you. Aside from that, I am also actively involved in my school community. I enjoy tutoring my peers and participating in honor societies. Volunteering and giving back to those around me is something I truly find rewarding. And of course, last but not least, my Girl Scout community is a core part of my life. It's not only a place where I strive to contribute and make a difference, but it's also a strong support system I can rely on. So that's a little bit about me and why I'm here today. I'm excited to share more about my Gold Award journey with you, and hopefully it inspires you in some way. I hope also that you learn a little bit more about me and my book through the process. So, I want to get into some technical stuff. Over here in the corner, I have the cover for my book and how it will show up when you search it up. It's currently on Apple Books for free, and hopefully in the future it'll show up on some other prominent sites, maybe Barnes & Noble or Overdrive, for example. For the book, I wrote down some important factors for writing the book and features about it. First, my main goal was always empowering children. But what's special about my book is that it's not directed towards the kids. It's directed towards their parents, but also just educators and people who work with kids. You may say, there's guides all over the internet. What makes this one different? Why should I read this one over others? And well, yeah, that's true. This was written with children in mind. And because I am a child, I tried using my own experiences to guide the book, which is also why, in every chapter, I wrote about my thoughts and opinions so that adults can understand, from the eyes of a child, what it's like to experience these traits and how it feels to learn about it. Next, I want to embrace the emotions. As I wrote in the introduction, this was the first line, this book isn't here to force traits onto children. It's here to bring out what's already inside them and let it shine. And that is truly my intentions. All kids have emotions, and I want to show adults how to bring it out of them. The next is also connected, because it's not about forcing it, but just like in school, there needs to be a basis of where they start. For example, I was talking to my little cousin, and he was telling me how he didn't know the difference between empathy and sympathy. In this case, I'd be teaching him the difference and showing him the correct ways to show it. My next bullet is inclusivity. And the last one is accessibility. These go hand in hand. My book can be used for all types of people, and it's not just for parents. It's for educators, Girl Scout leaders, and for people who want to learn more about kids and how they learn, and also just people who work with children in general. I also think Apple Books is accessible for people, especially because I think a lot of people nowadays own some sort of Apple device, like a MacBook or a phone. But in case that doesn't happen, in case someone might not own an Apple device, I'm trying to get it set up for Barnes & Noble and for Overdrive and other sites that don't require you to have a specific device. But in the meantime, I link my email in the description, and if you email me, I'd be happy to send a PDF, which doesn't cost me anything, it doesn't take me any time, so it's very simple, and I'd be happy to do it. Also, just want to mention again that the book is free, which is another thing that adds to the inclusivity and accessibility. I do this on purpose for the purpose is to give back to my community. I don't want this to be something that you need to pay for to get the resources. I want to be something that is available for everyone. So that's the main reason for it to be free. So I really do want to give back. Also, I want to make a note that the book is very, I'm not sure the right word, but it's very easy to access what you're looking for. I think that's what I'm trying to say. When you go to Apple Books and you look for the book, there's different categories. Obviously, there's the table of index or whatever, table of contents, and it tells you where the pages are. And it's meant to be something you don't have to read cover to cover. Obviously, you can. I included an introduction and conclusion like a regular book, but those are more about me, not really something you need to know for the book. It's not a continuous story. You don't need to read chapter 1 to understand chapter 2 or 3. It's standalone, so you can just read about books on kindness or activities to teach honesty, and the help will be there, and you don't need to read the whole entire chapter to understand. So I think that's really important, and that's one of the reasons why I make these videos the way I do. Each video is a new story, I'll say. I repeat all the same information, like all this stuff about my book, about me, because I don't want it to be where you have to watch one video to understand about the book. Because the main purpose of these videos is to understand my book and about me. Not just about the chapter, even though each video is focused on that specific chapter, but I do want to teach more about me and the purpose for the book, because it's a very important part of the book. So I try to make these videos stand alone, so you don't have to watch every single video to understand the 8th one, because this is my last one. So you wouldn't have to watch the other 7 hours of videos I've made. So I did it on purpose, and I highly encourage you to skip around and find what you're looking for. So if you don't want to learn more about me, then skip to a different part and maybe come back to it. Or, it's up to you. And that's the whole point. And I think it just makes it more inclusive and accessible. Also, hopefully in the future I can get it in libraries, which can also make it more accessible, which I hopefully will be doing soon. In the book, I go through, In the book, I go through 8 main chapters. Of course, I started and ended with an introduction and conclusion, but as for the traits I talked about, it's as follows. So kindness, confidence, empathy / sympathy, leadership, being an upstander, communication, honesty, and gratitude. I can officially say, because this is my last video, my 8th one, that you can go check out any of the other traits listed, because they are all posted. And I think that's a big thing for me, because now I don't have to tell you how to check out the book to look at it. Now you can just look online and look on YouTube right here. So very accessible. And so I just want to say that personally, my favorite chapters in terms of writing was the leadership, because it's always been pretty big for me. But also it goes similarly with being an upstander. They're both really my favorite. Especially being a Girl Scout, those traits have always been ingrained in me since I was little, and something I always ask myself to be. So, and also in addition, in order to be a leader, you need to possess some sort of upstander qualities, and in order to be an upstander, you definitely need to be a leader. So in terms of writing, but also teaching, they were both really my favorite. So, yeah. Next, I want to briefly talk about what's discussed in each video I'll be making. These aren't really live, so I don't know if it's considered a webinar, but that's what I'll be considering it at least. First, each day will have a new chapter discussed. This is true, except it's not really each day. As I said before, this is my 4th webinar. Sorry, not my 4th. This is my 8th webinar, and it hasn't been filmed in order of days, but instead at different times. So basically that means I didn't film it as in 8 days ago I made my first video. I mean it as in each video is a new chapter. I didn't word it good at all, but excuse me, I'm very sorry. Each video will be in order. So my first video was obviously webinar 1, then the next one was webinar 2, all the way up to this one, webinar 8. So it's not in order. I think I've posted my first and second one maybe 1 or 2 months ago, so not really each day, but that's how I phrased it. Nonetheless, each video will focus on a singular chapter of the book, like how today is chapter 8 about gratitude, and how last video was about chapter 7, which is about honesty. And I actually want to quickly note, I mistakenly, because this one right here, I accidentally wrote honesty was before gratitude, and because I listed it like that, that's how I did it in the videos. So webinar 7 is honesty and webinar 8 is gratitude. But if you go to the book and check it out, honesty is actually the last chapter and gratitude is the second to last chapter. So it's actually switched, but because I wrote it like this since video 1, I decided to make it like that. So if you were looking for gratitude and you're like, it's not the last chapter, go to the second to last chapter. That's where you'll find it. Next, I will do an overview and book reading. So I won't be doing a full book reading of the chapter, and I did that on purpose so that if you want to read in more detail or see more examples, for example, some subcategories about books or websites, you can easily access it and read more within your own time frame, because I wouldn't be able to fit it all in this one video. If I just included all of it, it'd be a very long and overwhelming. And I also want you to check out the book, and maybe something will catch your eye and you'll want to read on. But this will be a little bit lengthy, each video. if you've watched a different one or you've seen the times, it's about an hour long. So if you just want to watch first third part of the video, I recommend skipping. If you just want to know book suggestions, skip to the book suggestions. If you just want to learn about kindness, go to kindness. So it's really flexible, and I recommend skipping to the parts you want. I've said it before, not really meant to be read cover to cover, even though you can watch each video one by one, hour long, for hours. I wouldn't recommend it because it would be very repetitive, but you can. But I recommend skipping. Next, I will talk about the writing process and my why. Towards the end, I will go through my little tips and tricks and my process using Apple Books as a first-time writer. I'm not an expert at all, but I like to throw in some of my experience to make it easier for people just like me looking for some help. So I like to just throw that in if you are looking to write, or something like that, because I went through it too, so I'm here to help. Next, talk about Girl Scouts and my overall journey. Girl Scouts has been a big part of my journey and the main reason for writing this book. So I love to talk about it and what it means to me, as well as how I got where I am right now, and the goal process and what leads to it. This is very important to me. I've been doing Girl Scouts since I was very young. So it means a lot to me. So if I can share my experiences, it means a lot. Next, fun and personal stories throughout. In order for it to not be super boring, I love to throw in a little bit of flair and spice and show some interesting stories throughout the way, so it's not as boring, but also so you can get to know me better and get to know my book better. So, yeah. I also enjoy that in the book, so if you read the book, whatever chapter, so let's say you read about gratitude, there are things in the chapter that I don't talk about in the video because it would be too robotic in a sense. I don't want to read everything off the script, and I don't want to read everything. I don't want to read everything in the book, so you can go and check it out. And the same thing goes for the videos. I share, just like I'm speaking now, this stuff isn't in the book. You can't get this anywhere else, And that's one of the reasons why the book is so special, because you can't really get these opinions anywhere else. My personal experiences are my personal experiences. So, one of the reasons why I like it, but, So yeah, as I said, today's chapter is gratitude. This is taken directly from my book as the first line. It says, definition, the state of being grateful, thankfulness. I don't personally like writing the word in the definition, so, thankfulness, but the state of being grateful is not always super helpful because, if you don't know what being grateful is, it's not going to help. But, grateful and gratitude are two separate things, but, so I guess it does help. But in the future, I don't really like to include the word, but it's not, so that was my mistake. But if you go through and read the book, you'll notice that I wrote other people's definitions from family and friends, and really anyone who wanted to help me during the process. I'll talk about more, but getting help from the community is very big. But what I meant by the different definitions, I said this in every video, I'll stress it again. A 5-year-old learns different than a 16-year-old, and a 16-year-old learns a lot different than a 50-year-old. So it's very different, and I like to include other people's definitions because people learn differently. There's different perspectives, and I like to show that there is different perspectives. But the thing is, I would recommend asking whoever you're talking to, whoever the child is, what their definition is, because nothing beats that. If they don't know what gratitude is, then there's no way to add on to it. They don't know what it is, or if they have a wrong definition, you might be adding on to the wrong thing. So I recommend asking them first, what do you think gratitude is? And later I have discussion prompts to help bring that up. But yeah, ask what it is to them. And I include it in here because it's important to see it. Maybe there's a trend of 5-year-olds not knowing that what gratitude is. I'm just adding it to see other people's perspectives. And next I wrote about what it is and why it is important. Just to clarify for whoever's reading it and make it really clear what I'm trying to get across. I'll read it, but take it with a grain of salt, because again, everyone's different and everyone has different meanings for everything. But this is what I got from my experiences and what I know. It was a little bit too long for me to put on the slides, so I just read it off of my script, or the book itself, actually. But if you want to see it or read it for yourself, you can go to Apple Books, of course. So gratitude is important for children to learn because it lays the foundation for emotional resilience, kindness, and a positive mindset. When children understand and express gratitude, they become more aware of the good in their lives, which boosts self-esteem and reduces feelings of entitlement or comparison. Grateful children tend to have better relationships with peers and adults because they recognize the value the efforts of others. Because they recognize and value the efforts of others. It also helps them handle challenges more calmly, as they're better at focusing on what's still going well, even though things are tough. Practicing gratitude supports long-term happiness and can lead to improved behavior and academic performance. It encourages reflection, patience, and the habit of looking beyond themselves to see how others contribute to their well-being. Learning gratitude also nurtures a sense of community, responsibility, and connection, all of which are essential for healthy emotional and social development. So that was a little bit about not just the definition, but a little bit of the explaining why it's important, not just what it is, even though, because that's what I just talked about. So, including a little bit of both. Next, how do we teach it? So in this category, I talk about discussion prompts for 3 to 6 year olds. In this case, I actually did this one a little bit differently now that I look at it. I did it for 3 to 6 year olds, discussion prompts. And then underneath, I put together a conversation example conversation that a parent is having with a child, or actually adult having with a child. And it can be really tuned to different ages. And I'll read it to you because it says that. But I did it differently than I usually do. But first I did practice conversation. And then I also always put in some activities. I have some activities in there, some books, and some websites. And I really stressed the how do we teach it, because at least for me, I know through my experiences that children learn better hands-on experiences, and showing is doing. It ingrains it, and it really just shows them how to foster it and how to show it. So I really like that, and that's why I made it a big part of the chapter. It's almost half the chapter, if not more. The biggest part, I'm pretty sure, is the my opinions, because I like to. Well, that's at the end, but I'll get to that when I get to that. So, how do we teach it? Ages 3 to 6. This is directly from the book. Here are some simple but effective questions and topics to ask your 3 to 6 year old. Who helped you today? What's your favorite toy? Why are you glad to have it? What do you say when someone gives you something? If they don't know how to respond or seem confused by what you're saying, encourage them and offer your own examples or ones they can use. Here's a sample conversation of how this could flow. I'll read it. Adult. Hey, name. How was your day? Child. Good. Adult. How did you practice sharing or showing kindness to your friends today? Child. What does that mean? Adult. Sharing means letting your friends use or borrow your toys or pencils, like how I share my blank. It could be like how I share my water bottle with you, or how I share, whatever you share with them or share in general. Child. Oh yeah, I shared my toys with my friends. Adult. Did they say please and thank you? Child. Why does that matter? Adult. It's a way of showing how they are grateful for what you're letting them borrow. Child. No, but I'll tell them in the future too. This isn't a perfect example of a conversation that might happen, but the main points are still there. Make sure to add connection to unfamiliar words to things they witness and see every day. Make sure they understand why the concepts are important by asking follow-up questions to confirm. Also, ask these kinds of questions daily rather than occasionally so they understand the importance of consistency. I love that sample conversation because it's not perfect. It's the type of conversation I'd have with my parents. I specifically I wanted to stress to ask follow-up questions because asking if they borrowed something, if they let someone borrow something is important, it's important. But asking, if they said thank you tells the child that their friend should be grateful for it, and I'm sure they were grateful. They just probably, didn't realize in the moment. But it also teaches the child to say thank you and please. It says, oh, they said, why is that important? Well, it's important because it shows that you're thankful, and it shows that, that they appreciate your kindness and what you're letting them borrow. So it's important to connect it to real life. It's important to ask follow-up questions so they actually understand and they're not just saying yes, or they, vaguely understand, but they're not getting the points that you're trying to teach. So yeah, just stress those points. Not a perfect conversation, but anything like that, because that conversation was geared towards a younger child, but you could have that kind of conversation with anyone. Yeah. So that was very different than what I usually do. If you know what I usually do, it was very different, but I still like it. Kind of switch it up, So here are some of the activities I put down. Okay. First is a jar. Create theme jars like a thank you jar, kindness jar, or gratitude jar. Children can write notes, draw pictures, or share moments to put in these jars. These can be read together weekly to enforce the values you're promoting. I love that one. I used to do that when I was younger too. The thank you jar is very, very geared towards it, but you could really do any. Bingo. Design custom bingo cards with actions or reflections related to gratitude. Examples include short-term tasks like, did you say thank you this week? Or what's something you're thankful for today? And long-term tasks like, helped clean up, held the door for someone, or gave a compliment. Children can mark them off as they complete each task and earn a small reward or recognition when they complete a row or full card. Next, a spinner. Create a gratitude spinner with categories like name a person you're thankful for, something in nature, or a fun memory. Kids spin and share something in that category. And then also leads to other conversations about why you're thankful for it, why, it just, all of these kind of, while you're doing it, while you're making the jar, they can explain why they're thankful for it. So they all spin into conversation, so I like that about them. Next, alphabet game. Go through the alphabet and name one thing you're thankful for, starting with each letter. A equals apples, B equals books. This is something fun to do with parents too, or, classes, whatever. I personally like to make it a fun, memory game, like I'm going on a picnic and I'm bringing, it might be harder for younger kids, but you could do something similar. My class used to do it for remembering names, but yeah, so that one's a fun one. Get everyone involved. If you are a parent, get you involved. It shows what, it gives them examples and helps them too. Next, drawing. Draw a picture of something you're thankful for and explain why. Yeah. A lot of the times people think that thankfulness, for me, a lot of the times I associate thankfulness with Thanksgiving. It's a time to be thankful. So a lot of the times gratitude could be teached during then, but it's really not linked to that. Gratefulness is not just something you show on Thanksgiving. It's not something you're just thankful, it's not just thankfulness that Thanksgiving linked, but it's something that should be showed every day. You can show kindness. You can show gratitude and thankfulness every single day without, a special occasion. So I think it's kind of important to stress that too. But of course, on Thanksgiving, show thankfulness, do whatever your normal thing is. I'm just trying to stress that it's not just a one-time thing, and they might not understand that, because I know when I was younger, I knew Thanksgiving as Thanksgiving, you give thanks. So, maybe put that as an example, like, you get it. Next, I include books. I will out for this page. I think I've read every single one of these when I was younger, but I will go over them. First is Bear Says Thanks by Karma Wilson. It's kind of explanatory by the title, showing thankfulness, how to show it, the bear. Cute stories for a younger kid. I also found these books through my community, through me, through my family, not just through me, but I made sure it's a lot of other people. Next is Gratitude is My Superhero by Alicia Ortega. Very also explanatory, talks about gratitude. And it goes right to the definition of what gratitude is. So I like that. Next, Those Shoes by Maribeth Bolts. I think I've read this book before. I swear I did. It was about being grateful for the shoes that you have, and I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100%, I'm pretty sure that the book is about how the kid didn't fit in with the other, I actually see it in the cover. It's about how one of the kids didn't fit in and didn't have the same shoes, but they learned to be grateful for their shoes, because not everyone has the same, same fortunate amount of things as them, if you know what I mean. It's not, he was fortunate enough to have shoes, and that was the point. Next is Thank You book by Mo Williams. I love Mo Williams. It's great for younger kids, honestly. So good. I loved him when I was younger. Next is Wonder by R.J. Palacio. I think this is like the 4th time I put this in one of the chapters. I love R.J. Palacio. I think that's what it is, Palacio. Such a good writer. So the book is heart-touching, I will say. Better for older children if you're going to read the book, just because it deals with bigger concepts that might be harder for a younger person to follow. Obviously, the concepts are similar. Be kind to everyone, I don't know if this actually fits really into gratitude, but really be thankful for everything that you have. The concepts are there that you can teach, but the book is might be a little bit too much for a younger kid. So I'd say around the age of 11, 12, maybe. Definitely that area. But it is a chapter book, so it's longer too. But the movie is great too. I love the movie. Next, I share some websites with these cute little figures on them. First, I have YouTube. Honestly, every single chapter should have YouTube in it. It's the first source I go to. A lot of the time, I just search up how to teach gratitude in children, how to children show gratitude, how can I show gratitude to help my children. I'm trying to share it as much as I can, but YouTube has great resources all over, and I think I'm even one of the resources on YouTube, so maybe you already got that hint. Next is First Things First. This is big for parents, I will say. It's a big parent resource, but it has a lot of blogs, and it talks about just gratitude in children. Very, very simple like that. I'm not sure if this one has worksheets. I think it might, but a lot of times the sources I put has worksheets, so that's why I'm not sure exactly. Okay, then I have my personal thoughts. I don't know why it says what is gratitude and why is it important. I think I forgot to delete that from the slide, but you get what I'm trying to say. I'm going to read a little bit about my personal thoughts. This is my favorite part of the chapter because it's something that's unique that no other author is going to have, and you don't really know what you're going to get in these. I read about different things. I read about sometimes personal experiences, sometimes I read about an example, a definition, sometimes I just go on a rant and talk about something random that's somewhat related, but you'll never know what you're going to get, and that's what I love about it. So, I'll read it. Directly from the book. Gratitude isn't just shown on holidays like Thanksgiving. I guess I was thinking like what I wrote. It's a year-round trait that children and adults alike should display, but not everyone knows how to show it. In my years of talking to adults, I have seen who understands what gratitude is and who is just saying please and thank you because that's what they were told to do. Saying please and thank you has become has become a habit and not something meaningful. When someone holds the door for you, the response is not just to say thank you. The response should be to show gratitude. While that could be saying thank you, it could also be nodding your head or speeding up to show you don't want to cause their delay. You're not supposed to just say it, you're supposed to mean it. As a little kid, I was raised in a family that always sat around the table on Thanksgiving and went around saying what we were thankful for. But why does it always have to be once a year? Consistency is key, especially when they're young and their brain is able to be molded and hold more information. What I find it most interesting about gratitude is the difference in how different cultures show it. Every culture has its own way of expressing appreciation, and learning about these differences can open children's minds and deepen their understanding of what it truly means to be thankful. In Japan, people often bow to show respect and gratitude. In India, it's common to express thanks with a gesture called namaste, placing hands together in front of the chest. In Ghana, appreciation is often shown with symbolic gifts or heartfelt words. Showing children these different types of gratitude is all sorts of culture and in all sorts of cultures can open their minds to new people. Making this a fun activity can also be educational. You can encourage this awareness by reading books from other cultures, celebrating holidays from around the world, or even asking children how their families express thanks. I love the personal thoughts that I wrote in this one. I think it's a good wrap up of all the chapters, even though this is the second to last one. But I said in the thoughts that it doesn't being grateful, showing gratitude doesn't mean just saying thank you. And like I don't mean it in the way that like you say thank you and you actually mean it. I mean in the way that saying thank you is not showing gratitude. If like it's kind of confusing, but you have to mean it. Just saying thank you because that's what you were told to do is not gratitude. It's like a routine. It's like a habit. And it should be a habit. It's still something nice to say, and it's still showing gratitude in a respect. It's just not fully, you're just not fully grasping what it is. And I think it's important for children to understand what saying thank you means. It's not just thank you, it's I'm showing my appreciation for what you're doing. And it's more than just please and thank you, even though that's a big part of it. But showing these other gestures are kind of important too, even though not always do you need to speed up, not always do you need to nod your head in appreciation. Sometimes a simple thank you can work. It's just about showing it for real, even though it's hard to tell. So, yeah, but I love the different holiday ideas. It's very, I like that a lot. Okay. Next, I want to talk about the writing process for me. First, I get asked how long. This comes in a multitude of ways. So first, I'm going to be talking about how long the process of creating the book really took. The truth is, it wasn't something I sat down and completed overnight. Writing itself took me around a year and a half. I had to brainstorm, outline, write, and then rewrite again, and rewrite again, fix grammar until it was something until it was something I wanted to share and was able to share. Each step took me time and energy, and sometimes I would go back and rework chapters that I thought were done. That's you're always going to be revising and improving whatever you're writing, so it does take longer in that because of that. But the writing process wasn't the only piece of the puzzle. Once I finished the draft, the publishing process added more time. I used Apple Pages to write and format the book. Pages gave me tools to design the layout and make sure the text looked polished and professional. Then I published it through Apple Books, which gave me a way to share it with the public. The step wasn't instant either. I had to double check formatting, submit files, wait for approval, and make adjustments. All of that took about a week and a half, but it was definitely worth it. And when I started the book on Apple Books, it was definitely like a good feeling overall. As for the length, the book is designed to be approachable. It isn't something you have to read cover to cover, which I've said multiple times, or in one sitting. Instead, I wanted it to be a kind of book you can jump in and out of, choosing the section that matters most to you. That's why it's around 90 pages. In these kind of books, it can be to however length you want it. It's just try not to make it as overwhelming. So you don't want to have like more than 400 pages, which is already kind of stretching it. But If you're interested in a special characteristic like kindness or leadership, you can flip to the right chapter in a section without feeling lost, which I liked about the book a lot. That flexibility makes the book a tool people can use however they need. And it also means the length, while not overwhelming, still has enough depth to really teach something meaningful. So it really depends. I will say, if you're writing it for younger children, you're probably aiming towards 10 to 15 pages. If you're young adult, probably 100 to 200 pages, and then adults maybe 300, 400, so on. But really, just try to get what you're looking for. It's all about context. Like if you're writing a cookbook, it can really be however long you want, but you want it to be more than like 20 pages, that kind of thing. Another thing I realized is how important it is to get others' opinions during the process. Writing can feel like a little bit lonely sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. I shared drafts with friends, families, and mentors, and each person brought a different perspective, which is really important. Sometimes I would sit down and I would read the line like 5 times, and I would just not see if it's good enough. And sometimes that's where you gotta have someone step in and see a new perspective. Sometimes you just need to go to sleep, but a lot of the times it's just seeing it from a different side. Sometimes they call out mistakes that I missed. Other times they encourage me when I was not feeling like writing. But having people to lean on is definitely crucial. Not only because they help improve the book, but also they remind you that you're not doing it alone. There'll always be someone to help you. Writing can be very personal, and letting others in can be scary, but it makes the end result stronger. Feedback also is very important, and it prepares the book to connect better with readers, since it goes beyond your own point of view. I also want to say that leaning on others is not a weak point. It's something that's very helpful. I know for me, I put out polls towards the beginning to guide where my audience is, see what was really what people wanted. You know what I mean? Obviously, I was still going to do what I wanted, but these 8 chapters that I curated and I picked, and the traits I picked, they weren't random at all. I put out a poll and I said, what types of traits do you think children should be learning nowadays? And I got a bunch of different things. And I also want to mention that you don't want the demographic to be all one-sided. If I got it all from parents, then maybe all the parents just want the kids to learn about kindness. Then that wouldn't be diverse at all. So, and maybe the teachers just want the kids to learn about honesty. So I got things from teachers, from parents, from other types of educators, from babysitters, from people who work with kids, troop leaders. I try to get an array of people, and then I got different results. I didn't just get one or two, and it's very important. Even though parents, sometimes they all want different things, but it's still important because my book isn't just for parents. So if you're writing a recipe book, a cookbook, and you are trying to see, you're trying to talk to your community, and you put out the poll, and they only get found by parents, and all parents fill it out, and they're like, I want only finger foods or foods for children, because they're looking for their children. And while, yeah, you probably want to include that at some point, just a few, but you don't want that to be your whole entire book. That's why it's really important to get other people's opinions too, and a diverse amount, so not just one. Once the book was finished, I knew my job wasn't over. Writing and publishing was just one part of the journey, but getting the word across is just another. It's just as important. The book only makes an impact if people know about it and can access it. I worked on spreading the word through different channels. Media plays a huge role, so I made use of social media platforms. I didn't make use of social media platforms, although YouTube does technically count. So I did use YouTube, but a lot of people, I've seen authors, artists, songwriters use TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all those, and I've seen them. A lot of people have seen them. They have a lot of likes, shares, and they post updates, post about the book, create content that explains why it matters, and it does get a long way, so it is a good idea if that's something you're looking, something that interests you. Also, making these videos, it's just a short videos help capture attention quickly, especially for people who might not normally think of the topic. That's more for TikTok, but I make these longer videos, and that's why I do it on purpose, so I could cover as much as I can without it going over an hour, because I think that would just be a lot. Even though these hour videos are already a lot, I think it's easier because I want people to skip around. It's not, but with a 2 hour video, it's very overwhelming, and it's overwhelming for me because that's a lot. But I think word of mouth is also another powerful tool. I talked about my book in conversations, shared it with friends, teachers, and encouraged people to tell others. I also want to make it available in libraries because libraries are placed where learning and accessibility meet. The more ways I could share the book, the more likely it would be able to reach people who could benefit from it. I just want to go back really quickly to word of mouth. That is so important. I could not stress it enough. When it first came out, no one would have known about it if I didn't tell anyone. Even if I made these videos, the people who are viewing it and liking it are people I know for the most part, and they're talking about it to other people. So it's really spreading on, and that's a big part of it. You can't just have something and not talk about it at all. But word of mouth is really important. I told my parents, I told my friends, and they told their friends, and they told, their teachers, and it just cycled into a lot of people knowing about it and being able to access it. But making something that lasts, like videos or social media channels, are very good too because they last forever. Word of mouth dies out in about a month, even though people will still know about it. It won't cycle that far. Not everyone in the whole world's gonna know about it, but having something permanent like videos and something sustainable that people can learn about is really important too. So make sure that's included in there. To wrap it up, the process of writing and publishing the book was much longer and more layered than I first expected, so it's a little bit overwhelming. I took time to write, more time to publish, and even more time to promote and share. Each stage taught me something different. For example, writing taught me patience and persistence, but it's really just important to persist through the whole process. You're not stuck in one part of it. The publishing process will go by, pretty quickly. I want to talk about that a little bit more too. So when I first thought about writing books, I immediately jumped to publishing because I didn't want to write a whole entire book and then not be able to publish it. So I wanted to get that set up first and then talk about writing it, because I knew I was pretty set on it. So I looked up websites because I thought publishing meant hard copy. That's the only thing I thought publishing was. And so I'd go onto these sites, and it would say, okay, $30 a book, $10 a book. Okay, I'll get 5 books, it usually said like $15. I'll say, okay, I'll get 5 books, 6 books, we'll take it from there. I don't need that many. But then it would say you need like a minimum of 100 books to buy. And first of all, I didn't need that many books. Second of all, the money is a big part of it, especially if you're a new writer. There's no way for you to get that much money unless you're like saving up for it, then that's different. But if you're like starting off and you're just wanting to write something small, that's hard to do, especially for me because it's a project. It's something I would have to fundraise for and would take a lot of time that I didn't necessarily have or need to do because of sites like Apple Books. When I originally found Apple Pages, it was like a light. I originally started writing on my phone in school between my off periods and just between classes, and it was very easy to use even on a phone. And when I transferred to a laptop, it all transferred with me, and it was very easy to alternate between and write on. It was very easy, and I found that that it was very helpful. And when it was time to publish it, there's a button in the corner that says publish. You press it, and it gives you 3 things to download: your cover, a 15-page sample, and the entire PDF of the book. And then you go to like Apple iConnect. It's very easy if you go to like Apple Books. It says like become a publisher on applebooks.com or whatever. Become a publisher. Tap that, and you upload all 3. It takes about 72 hours, and you're good to go. And I will say that their customer support is very good. I accidentally published it twice, and they were very good at helping me put that, deleting one of the copies and getting all my buyers of the book to transfer into the downloaded one, the real one that I kept up. But it is very good, I will say. I highly recommend it. I'm not sure how it is if you want to get monetized and get paid for the book, because I didn't do that. I'm sure it doesn't take as much. I'm sure it takes longer, but because of how good my experience was with Apple Books and Apple Pages, I don't think it would be too confusing. But I'm not sure how it would all work out, because you might have to do something with taxes or something. I'm honestly not even sure. Fees, who knows? But that's not what I did. So, that was just a little bit about the writing process. If you have any questions, you can message me. I'm not an expert on it, so I wouldn't really recommend messaging me. But if you do have anything specific that I talked about and you want to ask about, my email is in the caption, or you can comment something. Next, let's talk Girl Scouts and Gold Award information. So another really important part of this project is how it connects to my Girl Scout journey. I've been in Girl Scouts since 1st grade, and I've worked my way through the awards, starting with bronze and silver and now Gold Award. Each step built on top of each other. So for my bronze award, I worked with my team, my whole troop, and I made a difference in my community, actually my school, so very small and local. And then moving on to my silver award, I made videos, but very separate. And it was independent, so it taught me a lot more leadership roles. By the time I reached the Gold Award, which is the highest award in Girl Scouts, I was ready to take on a project that was meaningful but also sustainable, and something that will have an impact over a long time. A main part of the Gold Award is sustainability, and they stress that a lot. You really want to have a sustainable project, because you don't want to be continuing this in your 40s, because I'm making these videos to help it be sustainable, but if I continue it by word of mouth, then I'd have to be talking about it almost every day and trying to get more people to do it. But that's not sustainable. That's not something that stays up until years after. So it's really big to have a sustainable project, and that's one of the reasons why I'm making these videos and doing webinars, so I can get the word across. And of course, Apple Pages, it'll be up there until Apple Pages is gone, which is probably going to be forever. So, it'll be up there. And a big part of the Gold Award is giving back what you learned. I am fortunate enough to have amazing troop leaders. They have taught me and my troop sustainability, for one, in our environment, in our community, just in general. Reduce, reuse, recycle. I've learned about first aid. I've learned about being an entrepreneur. I've learned about space. I was even on the news once for we went to our local news station, and we were able to learning about broadcasting and how they do it, and it was very interesting, and it was definitely a good experience. But I've learned geocaching, cooking. I've learned about different cultures. I've learned about a lot of things, and I think, and a big part of the Gold Award is giving that all back and teaching that, and using what you know to create a project that's going to help your community and help communities outside of yours. And so my project is heavily on these traits that I've learned personally in Girl Scouts. I've learned about leadership. I've learned about how to be an upstander. All of these I've learned about, and I'm ready to share my experiences of what it means to me. But obviously, you don't need to do things about traits about leadership, although it's very, like, you can, of course, but a lot of people do it on something that they're passionate about that will still help their community, whether that's maybe putting something in hospitals, like books in waiting rooms or something small, but it doesn't have to be just this. It can be so many different things, and that's the beauty of the Gold Award. So yeah, that's just why, a little bit more about Girl Scouts, but I do really highly suggest it for young girls. Definitely a highlight in my life. It has taught me a lot, and so. But if you really do want to look more at Girl Scouts, which I recommend, obviously, I would go to your local council, look online, go to the website. Look in your community. There are so many different opportunities where you can start troops, where you can join troops, for younger children, of course. But yeah, definitely recommend it. But I'm not an expert at all. I'm just trying to share my story. I did bronze, silver award, and I think like a journey or two, but there's a few different ways to get to it, so I don't want to speak on all of the ways because I don't know, but that's just what I did, and a little bit about that. So next, I have some questions that I curated from the internet, from me, that I want to ask, from friends, family, people in my community. A lot of these I've talked about before, but just to wrap it all up. So what does gratitude mean to a child? I wrote down 10, but I'll probably only go through about 5 or so. For a child, gratitude means noticing the good things in their life and appreciating people who help or care for them, whether it's family, friends, or teachers. How can parents or teachers model gratitude for children? Adults can model gratitude by saying thank you, often pointing out the good in everyday moments and showing appreciation for small acts of kindness. Children learn by watching. And a lot of the times when you have a child, you tell them to say thank you. But I think it's also important to just let them know why they're saying thank you. They're not just saying it. There's a reason. So, of course, you can just say thank you, but help them understand that a little bit more. Why might some children struggle with gratitude? Children may struggle with gratitude if they are used to receiving things without reflection, or if they have not been taught to pause and notice kindness around them, which is definitely a big thing. And it follows, because I know some adults who do that too. So definitely teach them young, because it might progress onto something that's not, What else do I have here? How can practicing gratitude shape a child's character? Gratitude builds empathy, kindness, and respect. It teaches children to look beyond themselves and recognize how others' actions make their lives better. Okay, yeah, a lot of this is about just saying thank you, about pointing out the kindness and, of other people, and appreciating it and being thankful. Okay, that was the end of my video. I hope you liked the theme too. I liked this Jack and the Beanstalk kind of thing. But I really appreciate it if you got this far, if you made it all the way to the end. It's been fun making these videos. It's been long, but I really appreciate it. And if it helps someone out there, then it was all worth it, even if it was a small thing. So I just wanted to say thank you. If you've watched my other videos, thank you for that too. If you haven't, then you can check those out. Those are awesome. It's about all the other traits that I talked about: leadership, being an upstander. There's so many. So definitely recommend that if you want to learn about some other things. And of course, check out the book on Apple Books. I really appreciate you listening, and I hope you learned something new about me and my book.